Now, I'm sure that a lot of you have experienced the same issue with your Ford N-Series tractor. As soon as you go up any sort of incline, the tractor just dies. It feels like it runs out of fuel. Well, I got a few simple steps to help you diagnose what the issue is. So the first step, let's get it on level ground and get it running again. So the first step, super easy. Spin your tractor around the other direction on the same incline that the tractor was dying on, and we're just gonna go up it in reverse. And as you can see, on this incline, the tractor has no problems running at all. Okay, so why did I make you drive your tractor across your property in reverse? And it's not just so that your neighbors would worry about your mental state, but there's actually a reason. Okay, so this is the carburetor out of your N-Series tractor, and this is how it is oriented in the tractor. So if you think about it, when you go and you start going up an incline and your carburetor tilts, this is the inside of your carburetor, and these are your floats. This is obviously a really nasty carburetor, but it'll work for showing what's going on. When your floats are down, that's allowing fuel to come in. And when your floats are up, that stops the fuel flow. So your floats are down, it's allowing fuel to flow into your carburetor and your tractor's running normally, and then you start to go up an incline and the level of fuel is now going from there and it's shifting, and now your floats are getting pushed up because with the same level of fuel as when your carburetor's open, is now floating to the front of the carburetor, and it is pushing your floats up and close, and it's closing the needle, not allowing any fuel to get into your carburetor. It's a really common issue with these N-Series tractor, and I wouldn't really even call it an issue. It's more of a cheap replacement part problem and poor adjustment problem. The combination of the two, and I've got one other problem on this tractor that I'll show you as well that's contributing to why it won't go uphill, but that is going to be the primary issue. And here in just a little bit, I'll pull that carburetor off and I'll go through the adjustment and how to fix that issue. Okay, so the other issue with this Ford tractor, and if you're big into these Ford tractors, you can probably spot it right away, but this is a gravity-fed system. So that means the only thing that's pumping fuel over there to your carburetor is gravity. So if you have any increase in altitude, basically, anywhere that the pipe ends up going upwards, it can start causing big issues. And you can notice I've got some leaks and stuff like that I got to fix too. I just bought this tractor, but because it comes out of here and it starts going upwards almost immediately, you can start running into issues with this thing not running at different angles. So what I need to do is go ahead and just pop that off. We're going to push it back through the other side, and we're going to route it underneath here up to there. And so basically from this point to the carburetor, you should always have sort of a downward angle to the carburetor. So the other most common issue, I think, at least for me, is the governor on these tractors. So if you go and you start to back your tractor up the same incline and it bogs down and it dies, just like when you're going forward, probably the issue is with your governor. So if you don't know, and that's fine, what your governor does is it adjusts the RPMs and the throttle that it's giving your tractor under load. So when your load conditions change, the RPMs will stay the same. That's what it's supposed to do. So if that's the issue that you found with yours, go ahead and go find another video that's going to talk about governor adjustment and rebuild and stuff like that. I wouldn't go buy a brand new one. I'd first tear mine apart and see if you can rebuild it, because it's, for one, super cheap and easy to rebuild. They're not as scary as they look. And two, a lot of the new or remanufactured ones that you can find online now are just cheap garbage and they don't work very well. So if you have an original one, I would just go ahead and rebuild that. All right, so let's start pulling this carburetor off. You can tell I'm already leaking a little bit of fuel, but go ahead and shut your fuel off, pull that off. You got your throttle, your choke on the other side, pull this little tube off, and these two bolts right up here, and you're right away. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and start disassembling this. Grab your flathead, start taking all your bolts out. Before you get too crazy, go ahead and pull out your main jet, which is this guy back here. Go ahead and split it. And here's your carburetor. Okay, so here's straight from the manual. Here's the little tool that they use, but we're just going to use a set of calipers. Your go, no go. So no go is anything over 0.29 and go is 0.26. So just over a quarter of an inch. That's why most people say just do a quarter of an inch. But look at the picture of their carburetor. Your float is nice and flat. So the bottom of your float, between the bottom of your float and the top of the casing of your carburetor, should be 0.26 of an inch. So this is what most people do. They go down here to the base, to the lowest point on the carb or on your float, and they measure it out, and boom, perfect. We're at 0.26. Carb's good to go. Well, the issue is, you see the angle that those floats are at? So yeah, down here at the base, you're at 0.26, but up here at the top, let's measure that. And you're at 0.326. So again, let's think about how that carburetor is sitting in there. And as you start going up a hill, those floats will float up. And as soon as you hit that point, you're not getting any more fuel. Well, if these floats are out already in an angle that direction, you're prematurely going to end up closing because now the fuel is floating up like that. So this needs to be nice and flat all the way across, the same level as that. So let's go ahead and fix that. Throw her back on. Okay, so I've got both sides nicely adjusted now. I'll show you. Let's see, I'm right at 0.26. Shove that guy in there, and it is just perfectly right at 0.26 all the way across. Let's put it back in. All right, so let's put this thing back together. You'll see this is your Venturi. Make sure you don't put it in backwards. The long side, this long flat part, goes towards the bottom of the carburetor. So you'll end up putting it in that way. Put your nicely adjusted new floats back in. Slap it back together. Okay, we're going to put our main jet back in, and when we put our main jet back in, we're just going to set it right to factory settings, which is just 1.5 turns out. So we do that by just tightening it all the way down until it stops. Don't snug it down, just go till it stops. And then watch that little dial. We're going to go out half, 1.5, and that should be pretty dang close. All right, we got the carburetor reinstalled. I've got the fuel on right now. It's not leaking, not overfilling, anything like that. We got the fuel line rerouted. I do think this fuel line is a little bit too long for this tractor. I had to put a little whoop-dee into there to make it fit and not have any spot going upwards. So taking a look at it from this side, it's a continuous drop from the sediment bowl here all the way down to the carburetor, so we shouldn't have any issues there. So let's go back outside and test it, see if we fixed it. All right, so we got everything back together. This is a pretty steep ramp, but let's start going up it and see if it dies. Doing good so far. Hey, look at that. That's not bad. So it'll go at a pretty steep angle. It wouldn't have done that before. That's pretty good. Let's see if it'll go all the way up it. Yep. Oh, it was so close. Well, it might have made it all the way up. I may have had to give it more throttle, but obviously you can see a vast improvement over what it was before. And honestly, these are aftermarket Chinese carburetors. I could probably go back in there and adjust that gap for the float even a little bit less, so it gives it a little bit more fuel when it's going up an angle, especially if you're going up really steep grades like this, because this is like really, I don't know what it is exactly, 30 degrees or something like that. Probably steeper than anybody's going up on a regular basis at least. So I bet if I shorten that a little bit more, I'd get even better performance out of it. But pretty dang good improvement over what it was before. So I hope that helped you out. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope you keep your N-Series running. See you next time.